correct?
Gotta be cathartic, 100%. You can see the line.
I never thought of that. Yeah, right. Fighting against the chaos.
Yeah.
Somebody probably wrote a book on that, made $1 million. All righty, is everybody ready? At this time, I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call that a pregnant pause.
Thank you, everyone. So, Mr. Gedman, roll call, please.
Certainly. Flynn,
Here.
Walter,
Here.
Spence,
Here.
Henschel,
I'm here.
Nelson,
Here.
Andrews,
Here.
Morris,
Here.
McAllister, Seifert.
Here. Thank you. Commissioner McAllister did reach out to me. He's doing his very best to keep it between the ditches on his way here. It's fancy little cars with no snow tires. So, Mr. Gedman, when you're ready, first public comment.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provisions of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board may state his or her name and township or district. Providing a specific address is not recommended. Persons may address the board on matters or issues which are relevant and germane to county government as determined by the chair. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chair shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chair may, at his discretion, allow an additional opportunity or time to speak if determined germane and necessary to the discussion. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment may be received during the meeting when a specific agenda topic is scheduled for discussion by the board. Prior to the first public comment, the chair will indicate the topics on the agenda for which public comment will be accepted. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chair. The board shall not comment or respond to a person who is addressing the board. Silence or non-response from the board should not be interpreted as disinterest or disagreement by the board. Please be respectful and refrain from personal or political attacks.
Thank you. Anyone who'd like to speak at this time, please just go right up to the podium, sir. Make sure you state your name.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Tom Busamra, co-founder of Before, During, and After Incarceration, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the entire BDAI board. I want to address a critical gap in our county jail system and a solution that is both cost-effective and urgently needed. Providing 3 to 4 hours of psychiatric services per week at the Grand Traverse County Jail. Right now, 40% of the individuals in our jail are on antipsychotic medication. That means that nearly half the population requires specialized psychiatric oversight. Our medical director, Dr. Provados, does outstanding work, but she cannot be expected to manage the high level of clinical complexity without access to psychiatric consultation. A psychiatrist on site for even a few hours each week would provide several essential benefits. First, they would support accurate medication assessment and stabilization. When the right medication is started or adjusted while someone is incarcerated, they are far more likely to continue treatment after release. And we know that maintaining treatment is one of the strongest predictors of reduced recidivism. Second, a psychiatrist able to sign the second clinical certificate required when a person is in severe psychiatric crisis and needs hospitalization. Without a psychiatrist on site, delays are unavoidable. Delays that increase risk for the individual and strain our emergency departments. Third, psychiatric services would significantly reduce the number of emergency transports. Each time an actively psychotic person must be taken to the ER, 2 deputies are pulled from duty. This is costly, time-intensive, and potentially dangerous. Many crises could be safely stabilized on site with proper psychiatric oversight, reducing both risk and exposure. Fourth, appropriate psychiatric care directly reduces violent outbursts and behavioral escalations within the jail. Stabilized individuals are safer for themselves, for staff, and for other inmates. And finally, this is a small investment that produces a powerful return. 3 to 4 hours of psychiatric care per week strengthens the entire medical system, supports Dr. Privadas and her term. Could I have like 20 seconds more?
Please finish, yes.
Thank you. Supports Dr. Privadas and her team, reduces emergency transport, lowers liability, and improves long-term outcomes. This is not just a medical service, it is a public safety strategy. It is a fiscally responsible intervention, and it is a humane, compassionate response to the medical health needs of our community. On behalf of, on behalf of BDAI, we strongly encourage the Commission to approve the psychiatric coverage at the jail. So thank you for your time and your leadership and your generosity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this morning who'd like to speak at first public comment? Once, twice, 3 times. All right, we're going to move on. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Sweet. We'll have a motion by Commissioner Henschel, second by Commissioner Walter to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Thank you. All right, moving right along to 5A. I guess that's you, Mr. Alger.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for being here today. We're going to start out with MERS projections that was requested a few weeks ago. Mr. Forsyth has prepared a presentation to that end, and we'll just walk right through the agenda today as quickly as possible, understanding that some folks have some commitments.
Morning, Commissioners. Just for everybody watching at home, my name is Chris Forsyth. I'm the Deputy County Administrator. So this is a repeat of what we did last December on December 18th. We did a presentation on the 2023 annual evaluation. This is a requirement by state law that MERS prepares, publishes evaluation of our pension system. We get that sometime late in summer. We take time to digest it, understand it, and then we run various scenarios using the total liability calculator software. So I'm going to go fairly quickly through this presentation this morning. And so just start with a few highlights from the 2024 report. Overall, our return was pretty good. We did beat the assumptions. Our smooth rate, which is just a way of saying we're going to take gains and we're going to smooth out those gains over the years to help minimize market losses. That was 3.79%. The funding ratio, if you compare 23 to 24, remained the same. MERS has kept the assumed rate of return or the discount rate steady. And then the good news is if you do a comparison between 2023 to 2024, our liability, our employer contribution, those numbers have been revised slightly downward. So for example, 2026 in our 2023 report, we were going to make a 1.48 million employer contribution to the system. That's been revised down to just over 1.4 million. I have put together a one-page summary of two tables. It's the table found in page 12 of the 2024 report, same table in the 2023 report. If anybody would like that, I can share that with you so you have that detail. But again, I want it to be expedient and more high level this morning.
Can you email that us to Chris?
Yes.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So the focus on the presentation this morning is going to be a discussion and then an approach to deal with the estimated annual employer contribution. So there's this ballooning effect that we talked about last year. That continues today. I'd like to draw your attention to the bottom center of the slide. Where on that slide it says 6.93% no surplus, so that's the blue line. The presentation is going to explain to you scenarios of, well, what if we use the surplus? What does that do to the ballooning effect? So just quick comment about the Pension Stabilization Fund. Over time, that fund has grown. Year to date, 2025, just over $4.55 million in that fund. So using the True Comp total liability calculator, I provided you with three scenarios, just like I did last year. The default scenario where you make assumptions that the assumption is nothing has changed, it's status quo. Scenario A is a 12.5% return on investment. And then scenario B is you use that 12.5% ROI, and then you look at the surplus funds that you have in the surplus division and how you can apply that in the future to drive down your employer contributions. Then what I've tried to do is give you a snapshot of 4 different years over the course of the next 12 years. So again, the discount for the default scenario, I haven't changed anything in the software. All the assumptions remain the same. I wanted to also point out that I've focused on market value of assets, not actuarial value of assets, because it's just a more conservative figure, and it's what truly the amount of funds we have in the account right now. So being conservative, you look at the start of next year, we're 93.22% funded. Our employer contribution is $1.41 million, and our unfunded liability is $7.274 million. Move forward to 2029. Funding level has dropped just a little bit, and you'll see the employer contribution is creeping up, as well as we still have this unfunded liability. Good news, by 2033, you are 100% funded, and the bad news is, though, your employer contribution has ballooned to $2.41 million. Why 2033? Why focus on that year? Because as we reported to you before, we have what's called an amortization extension agreement with MERS. That agreement says the county shall be 100% funded by the start of 2034. By 2036, we're in really good shape. Liability is really non-existent, over 108% funded. In the employer contribution, we've gone through the years of ballooning. So scenario A, well, what if we assume, based on end of third quarter, a 12.5% return on investment for the year? And that in itself is actually a little more conservative than the 2025 investment report. That is hyperlinked for you to look at it. So in that report, you'll read 12.66. Again, we're trying to be as conservative as possible. So what does scenario A look like? Really no change in 2026, although you do improve a little bit, both unfunded liability and funding percentage. 2029, a little better shape than the default scenario. 2023, you're 105+% funded. Your liability's gone. You still have a employer contribution you have to make. You still have some ballooning through the course of the next 5 years, but that has dropped as well. And then 12 years out, again, pretty good shape. So that's scenario A. Let's move on to scenario B. Again, same assumptions as scenario A. Now though, let's look at the surplus division. And what I can tell you is that at the end of last year, we had just over $3.4 million in the surplus division. And so what if we start using that in the next few years? What if we gradually add to the other divisions in the MERS system? What does that do? And again, we're assuming a 12.5% return on investment in 2025. So again, not much change next year compared to scenario A. But you do start to see changes in future years in 2029. The employer contribution is less than what was in the default by about $700,000. By 2033, again, you've hit the requirement as stated in the extension agreement, so we're in pretty good shape there. By 2036, again, everything looks good. What I've done for you, this slide, I've put together a 3-column comparison of the default, the scenario A and scenario B, showing funded percentage is the first comparison. And then more importantly, I've really focused on the annual employer contributions. And again, what we're trying to show here is that if we use the surplus division, if we transfer out of the surplus division into other divisions, gradually do that over the course of the next few years, your future employer contributions still going to balloon a little bit, but now you've drastically reduced or eliminated the larger ballooning under the default scenario and is outlined in the 2024 actuarial report. So what are the takeaways? What is county administration recommending? One is use of the surplus funds in the amount of $1.25 million next year. Again, when we say that use of surplus funds, we're just taking the surplus division and we're shifting those funds to the other divisions that are underfunded. In the future, consider additional use of the surplus funds. We have on hand right now, or I'm sorry, at the end of last year on hand, $3.4 million. You have enough in the surplus division that you can make additional transfers in future years. And different from last year, we're recommending you hold steady on the pension stabilization fund. So last year, the recommendation was make an additional payment to MERS. We're saying hold steady, keep that pension stabilization fund intact, because there are unknowns. There are a lot of unknowns. There could be a downturn in the market. To have that pension stabilization fund at $4.5 million to use it in future years would really benefit the county. And per the county's general fund surplus policy, instead of taking the overage in excess of 30% and put it in the pension stabilization fund, it would be apply all those funds to reduce the amount of bonds you need to issue to support Project Alpha. So that's a quick review of the presentation. The 2024 valuation, the complete report is in the packet, and yes, I will send an email to everybody with the 2023-2024 chart comparison.
Thank you, Mr. Forsythe. Any questions? Commissioner Henschel.
Chris, I didn't see a slide, tell me if I missed it, that shows the percentage funded year to year for the past 5, 6 years. Do we have, what page is that on?
That should be in the report.
That's in the bulk of text?
Yes. Yeah, that
It
should
just-
be there.
And I'm just like speaking from what this feels like. I can remember we were 101%, and it just seems to be dwindling down, 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 and now we're in the low 90s.
Yes, yeah. So an explanation to that is you issued pension obligation bonds in 2021 at the end of that year. 2021, you're 104% funded. 2022 was a bad year in the market. MERS suffered a loss. MERS has to spread that loss out over the next 5 years. That's what's causing the reduction in the overall funding percentage.
Rob, it's on page 33.
Thank you.
124, which is report page 32.
Your combination?
Got it.
It's table 7, and it shows the percent funded, that where you hit that 121.
Okay. Just my gut says we could be more aggressive towards the pension, and I feel like we keep expanding county expenses, adding positions, giving raises, more benefits, and it looks like everything's fine and dandy, but that one number keeps going down, 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 and that's the funded number. We're sitting on close to $4 million in our pension stabilization fund, earning interest at, 4 or 5%, when the markets are earning double and triple that. So I don't know, I just feel like we should be more aggressive and be watching this a little better. I feel like have a huge, everything might look fine, but if you look at what could have been, if we had an extra $4 million in the markets this year when they had a banner year, what was the opportunity cost of having that $4 million, ballpark figures, in pension stabilization fund earning very basic interest? And then we're talking about reducing the amount of money we're going to borrow at 3 and 4% at the expense of having that money in the markets at 10 to 12%. I think we're missing the boat because we have a very unique opportunity that no one else can do but local governments, and that is to put government money in the market. And this is, if you look back, the Great Depression was caused by that big collapse in the markets back in the early 1900s. And that's when everybody was borrowing money and putting it in the markets, and the markets couldn't bear it. But governments actually have the ability to do that, and it actually comes out better for the taxpayer, depending on the appetite for risk of the local board.
So that right there, the risk, right?
Yeah,
Because what goes up comes down.
right. And that's what we saw 3 years ago. We lost a ton of money. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But-
I mean, you could look back and say, oh, we should have put it in this year. Well, we said that
We said that last
4
year.
years ago too, and we lost a bunch of money. So I think a more conservative approach is,
And quite frankly,
Little
the
better.
MERS thing only makes the people who run MERS money, as do all investments. Primarily the people that are managing the accounts, not us investing in them, are the one that always make money. It's a bad investment all the way around, but here we are, we have debts to pay. So, any more questions, Commissioner Walter?
well, I don't think it's a bad investment. It's a stable way to
5%.
provide for the pensions. But tell me I'm talking right now. Tell me the downside to you of using those surplus funds, because the scenario with the surplus funds looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I've thought through that, and at this point, I don't see it. The downside risk, yes, there is a risk. So 2023, if you look back, we were assuming 10.5% ROI. The market, the last part of December really dropped. So there is that risk now, right? As we sit here today, the rest of the year, the market drops. So 45% of our funds are invested in stocks. That market could drop. So what that means is your surplus funds division could be reduced correspondingly. But that's why, so I've thought through, well, why don't we just shift all the surplus funds right now into the unfunded divisions? But that's greater risk versus if you take this more measured, gradual approach, you minimize the risk, for sure.
How much is the surplus funds earning right now? I missed that.
So it's all the same.
Okay, it's
number.
not in a separate.
It's not separate, no.
So it's earning the same as the rest of the fund?
Correct.
So it's not like we're gaining
It's earning
from,
the rest of county general fund, not the rest of the MERS fund.
No.
No,
That's what
I
MERS.
think the question was surplus funds division within MERS.
Stabilization
Yes.
fund is not
Not
surplus.
the surplus.
Yeah.
not
Two
our-
pools.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the 4.5, the pension stabilization fund, that is a separate fund that we maintain. Surplus division is money invested with MERS that earns the same interest that the other divisions earn as well.
I'm in favor of moving over that, not all of it, but a more measured approach to incrementally moving over the surplus funds.
Scenario B here.
Scenario B looks like a good balance to me.
Go ahead, Commissioner Andrews.
I am concerned about the projections. I think I understand that the projections assume a 12.5% return going forward, where MERS is projecting, in the best-case scenario, a 6.93% going forward, which would suggest 12.5 is a really aggressive estimated
Yeah.
return.
Great points. Let me further explain that. That is actual investment rate for this year only. So you assume end of this year, 12.5% ROI. That's it. All the other assumptions, the 6.93, carry that forward.
But even that's aggressive. That's MERS best-case scenario right now.
Well,
Because that number has gone down, right? Their last report, the number was at 7%, so they are
this is-
bumping that down.
let me explain. There are assumptions and there's actual. Actual is 12.5%. It's actually growing. That's actual. The assumptions, though, 6.93, that stays in place. So for my own individual financial planning, I assume a 7% growth over my own retirement account. Year to date, I'm 15%. But I just assume that because I want to be conservative when I'm looking down the road.
But I guess the concern is that if, in fact, the future is not as bright as the 6.93%, which is what is the more conservative, if we want to be the most conservative, we'd go with the 4.93. And I think I generally agree with both Commissioner Walter and Henschel, which I think you're both saying we should put more into MERS instead of sitting on more in our pension stabilization fund. The 1.25, and that's frankly what MERS tells us to do, right? They say don't pay the minimum. They highly recommend you pay more than the minimum. So it seems.
Well, of course they do.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, it goes without saying.
and also because it saves us money in the long run, right? Like that's the perceptive, the sort of prevailing wisdom, whether it, and then you also stand to lose more in downturns.
Right.
So that's the risk. It seems to me that that splitting the proposal like you've done for now is a small step forward. Adding 1.25 of surplus was 1.25 is reasonable. I think we could do more than that because I don't think sitting on money in our MERS stabilization fund is earning anything. Certainly not earning, I don't believe it's earning 7% or anything close to it.
Or something.
Yeah, 4-ish.
So we'd probably be better off taking a little bit more risk, but I don't know how much more risk.
But it's also there for that downturn if we have like it's a stabilization fund. If the market has that drop, which when we've been going up, you're going to have we'll be sitting pretty if we have that money sitting there at a more consistent rate. So we've kind of stacked this up so we've got a balance from one to the other, what we've got in MERS, what we've got in the budget stabilization, and I like what you're proposing, and as Commissioner Walter said, so that proposal B, I think, is a good continued balance of that, in my opinion.
But to be clear, that proposal includes, the recommendation includes that the MERS, some of the rest of the fund, the 4.5 wouldn't be there because we would use it as a down payment on the jail. It's not just going to be
Right.
sitting there? That's next
Go
year's?
go ahead, Nate.
So
Yeah,
the request is going to be, after this presentation, is we take our complete surplus funds from 2024, the 5.6 something, put that towards the pension. So do not have any, I'm sorry, put that
Project
towards the
Alpha.
Project Alpha.
Yeah.
Do not have any go to the Pension Stabilization Fund, and don't have any going to the Capital Improvements Fund. In a world, a scenario most beneficial to the county, we had a good year in '24, we've had a good year in '25. We could conceptually, if we had a string of good years, at the end of the 2034 year, we could have $4.5+ million if we continue to add to that pension stabilization fund, a significant amount of money sitting in a pension stabilization fund that we would never have to use. So I think we should, Chris did a nice job with this presentation, the calculations. If you're not comfortable with the amount from the surplus funds division going, spreading them back across the pension, the different funds or different units, we can add more.
Chris, can you go back to that slide where you show the default A and B, the dollar amounts?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry about that.
This here showing the annual employer contribution.
Before that.
The percent funded one?
This is percent funded.
I know. No, he had showed one where it's like, this is the dollar amount we're saving, this is the dollar amount that's going
Yeah,
where.
if you, so
There you go.
I'll start with scenario B, and it's if you look at the circles at the top,
Yep.
so the green circles, the employer contribution. So under scenario B, you're going to see a savings compared to the default in future years. And I do want to, everybody's making really great points, and it's not an either or scenario.
Yeah.
We could be in 2026, we could be in a downturn, and we could come to the board earlier and say, you've got 4.55 million. Let's make that additional contribution in 2026.
Still earmarked.
There's not a wrong answer that's been provided. So it's truly what is your comfort level, and we can make it work. Yep.
I just say really good work, Chris, and whoever else worked with you on this. I know you didn't do it alone, but this is very, very helpful and great way for us to look at it and see it. So
Yeah, I've got a really good accountant who always double checks my numbers. So
well, we see it's in color, so we know he didn't do it.
If I could add just one point to the discussion, you might be thinking, why do we have surplus funds with MERS? But that's because you paid ahead of what they've required you to pay. It has nothing to do with the risk or the market performance. It's because we paid ahead of their amortization schedule. So that's been, I think, our position. Going back to 2018, we always want to contribute more, but as Chris has indicated, you have to time when you're going to make those additional payments to MERS. The pension bonds that were issued in 2021 was a big swing. I mean, we put almost 40 million, and we were 110% funded when we did that. In 2022, within 3 to 4 months, we lost almost 20% in our MERS fund. And it's taken time to recover. We've had some good years back to back. So the risk will always be there. How we manage the risk is the key. And you got to take small swings at this and still have some in the bank for when the market doesn't perform like we would hope it would. So we are ahead of the schedule. We want to stay on schedule, and we want to stay ahead between now and 2033.
What I like about this is that we are leaving options for future boards. Very likely that none of the people sitting here, many of us won't be here in 2033, but those people will have good options depending on whatever's happened, up, down, stay the same. We're not committing them, we're not binding their hands.
Mr. Hansel.
I agree with what Mr. Bott's saying, and makes a great point about putting money in all at once. Because anytime we put a chunk in, we've done it in the past, if the market goes down immediately the next quarter, you lose. If it goes up, big gains. And so we had talked back in 2019 about if we're going to drop a chunk in, let's split it up over 3 or 4 quarters so that you're mitigating that risk. So if this quarter things are up, or if this quarter things are down, if you put in that $1 million, $250,000 at a time over 4 quarters, you mitigate some of that risk. And meanwhile, while we hold it for those 3 quarters extra, it's still earning that 4% instead of that 10%, but it's not, that 10% is not a guarantee. So that's a strategy we've discussed over many years.
Sure. Any more questions or comments at this point? Commissioner Walter?
Do you need a motion for the surplus fund?
Yes, yeah, that would be great.
Do
Thank
you
you.
have a specific amount? It's just general transfer funds from the surplus division to underfunded divisions, but
Yeah, it would be 1.25 million.
1.25?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make the motion to direct administration to transfer funds from the surplus division to underfunded divisions within the MERS plan in the amount of 1.25 million.
Is that what you require?
Yes, thank you.
I'll support that. But I have one more question.
Sure thing, I'll get right to you.
Okay.
Did you get that, Mr. Gedman?
I believe so.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Walter, support by Commissioner Spence. Discussion, Commissioner Spence, you have a question?
Yeah, are we going to apply all the 2024 excess fund balance to the Project Alpha project, or are we still deliberating over that?
We are still deliberating over that. That is a staff recommendation at this point.
Commissioner Hansel, do you have?
I just wanted to be clear that the motion was the surplus fund, which is already in MERS. So we're not actually paying anything in. This is just checking
We're
a
just
box.
moving it. That was the motion.
Yeah. So this is money that's already at MERS. We're not paying more in with this. It's just moving it from one column to another. That, it's like going into your online banking and moving it from your checking to your savings. It's already in the bank. So this isn't the stabilization fund. This is the surplus fund we're moving over.
Good clarification, thank you. Any more discussion? All right, motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to, what is that, 5B?
5B is the capital improvement plan. You've seen this previously, and the reason we bring this to your attention is the point that was just made. We now have we have suspended our fund balance policy previously to make sure that we had time for this discussion. Our recommendation is that with the 2024 surplus funds that we suspend the fund balance for 2025, the policy, and put the surplus funds completely towards Project Alpha.
Comments or questions?
Somewhere. Chris, was that in your presentation?
I did not.
All right.
I mentioned it, Nate, but didn't have.
All right.
So your desire, say that one more time, Mr. Alger.
Our recommendation is for the Board of Commissioners to suspend the fund balance policy for 2025 and move all surplus funds into an account to be used for Project Alpha.
So made. Do I have a second?
Support.
All right. I have a motion made by myself, Commissioner Sievert, support by Commissioner Henschel. Following recommendation of Mr. Alger and administrative staff.
Discussion?
Oh, I'm just making sure Sam's got it written down first. Okay, discussion. Questions, comments, concerns?
When you say a different account, what do you mean by that?
We would transfer those funds before we close our 2025 fiscal year from the general fund to a debt service fund so that they're available to fund Project Alpha. So it would be a budget transfer, and that's the 2024 excess, but that all takes place in our 2025 fiscal year. We're moving it from the general fund to another fund, so it's, basically taken out this year so that we don't have to amend the budget to do that in 2026.
And that fund will continue to earn interest as well? About that same amount that we're getting?
We can do that. We generally don't do that because most of the interest just goes back to the general fund, so.
Well, do we need if we do this, to make a motion to keep that interest in that same fund to help with Project Alpha?
Sounds like a friendly amendment to me.
I feel like
Commissioner
is it an amendment?
I'm going to guess not yet.
Sure.
All right, do you accept the friendly amendment?
Could you state it once more, please?
Keep the interest earned on that proposed account for Project Alpha within the Project Alpha project fund.
Okay.
Fantastic. A friendly amendment made by Commissioner Walter has been accepted by Commissioner Seifert and Commissioner Angel. Commissioner Andrews, you had more comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think we budget that revenue to go into the general fund. So it will have an impact on our general fund. Obviously, it's a small amount, but I think I would be very interested to see how we've been earning. I think we had a recommendation from the auditors last year that we should be getting monthly financial reports from our treasurer with updates. I believe that would include interest earnings. And
I even we asked for one.
think we did ask for one. I think we asked for one in November.
Many months ago.
And I don't think we should take an ad hoc approach to interest until we have a better picture about interest. I feel like how we're earning interest on whether it's pension stabilization or whether it's other funds that are sitting in the various accounts should warrant a more comprehensive conversation about how much is getting earned and how we're allocating it to different resources and funds. And I don't know that we can say this $4.5 million in this pension or Project Alpha payment fund earned money, because I don't think that I don't think that the treasurer puts funds in CDs or anything. It would be a made-up number that says, well, overall we earned this much interest, so overall we're going to allocate this much of it, as opposed to what it actually earned. So I feel like the interest conversation is a bigger conversation.
It is. I just think we need all the money we can get for this very giant unknown number of a project. And even if it's 4 or 5% that we continue to earn until we start bonding will be helpful. I mean, 4% maybe on $4.5 million is significant.
But it's also taking money out of the general fund, because that money would otherwise have been in the general fund. And we do know exactly how much Project Alpha is within, I think, $400,000, $500,000.
Well, we don't really, and it's only going to get more expensive. Those are estimates. We don't really know, and every day the price of things goes up, unfortunately.
I think Commissioner Andrews has a valid concern about that and movement. But I also agree with Commissioner Walter that, back to the whole concept of, hey, we're putting money aside like we were for the MERS account that we control in case we have a bad year or 2 years, several years in the market. So we're going to have to kind of split the baby here. There is a motion on the floor. Commissioner Nelson.
I want to put Mr. Bott on the spot and see if he has an opinion one way or the other on this, and he may not, but.
I do. Since I've been here, which has been a while, we have limited the funds that we allocate interest to, not because we can't do the math, but because we keep the funds in our general fund, which is your main fund to operate on, which seems to have the largest scope in terms of where we appropriate to, who we transfer to, anything extra or additional that comes up. It's your largest budget. Trying to keep that revenue source where in the fund where it does the most good. And we limit where we allocate interest to those funds that are statutorily required to have an interest allocation. We do allocate interest to the pavilions because, you know, we're investing their funds in our common cash. Some restricted funds, grants require that we allocate, so we limit it to only those funds that either have a statutory requirement or a grant requirement to allocate interest. We're currently not allocating any interest to our pension stabilization fund that we have, to our budget stabilization fund. The ARPA funds didn't receive any. You know, it was an $18 million fund, so that is my position.
To be consistent, we wouldn't put the interest, we wouldn't keep the interest in, but we'd go to general.
Yep.
It would stay in the general fund. That doesn't mean that you can't allocate interest to those funds.
Absolutely.
There's no formal policy. That's just been our practice.
Thank you.
Well, we also haven't had hundreds of, how many million-dollar projects in front of us either. And, I mean, the irony is that we're moving this 4.5 over that is basically extra, right, that we've moved over, that's a surplus, and part of that was interest earned. So, I mean, I could go either way on it because I don't see the downside to keeping it in there because of the somewhat unknown, very large costs that are going to be coming our way.
Any more comments, questions, concerns? There's a motion on the table, or on the floor, rather. So, do I need to have the motion reread in its entirety? So we're all
Please.
clear? You want it reread?
These, yes?
Mr. Gedman?
So the motion, as I understand it, is to adhere to administration's recommendation for the suspension of policy to move funds into the Project Alpha fund line and with a friendly amendment, to keep earned interest within Project Alpha within the fund instead of into the general fund.
And that's about 4.5.
That is $5.5
Seven.
$5,571,821.
All right.
I'm hoping that if this fails, there'll be another motion without the extended, so
Sounds reasonable to
keep
me.
that in mind when I vote.
I have no choice but to vote one way.
One
No,
moment.
you don't.
Yeah, I do. If you make a motion, you have to
You
vote
don't have
for
to vote for it.
That's
You
not
don't have
true.
to vote for
You
your
don't have to
motion.
vote for a motion.
If I make it, I do.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You can also withdraw.
And
it.
that might be your
Point
own
of order.
personal
You can
preference,
also
but
withdraw
it's
it.
not required.
I can withdraw it.
Point of order. Who's our parliamentarian?
Matt.
Is he on?
You don't have to vote.
That's all right,
for
we'll
your
get it, I'll
Chris?
get back to you on that. So let's get back to where we were doing, we have business here.
Mr. Chairman, would it be in order to clear the floor?
I think so.
I move we clear the floor.
There we go.
I'll second
Second.
that. We have a motion by
Can you
Commissioner
clear the
Hensel.
floor if you made the motion?
You can. Well, no, but he has to have a vote. So we have a motion by Commissioner Hensel, second by Commissioner Andrews to clear the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
No motion's
Fantastic.
on the table.
Come back as a budget.
I'm looking for your breakdown. Could you just give me one
Sure thing.
second on that, please?
Thank
Thank you. Thank you for the added,
No
Stress.
pressure.
it is according to the analysis for 2024, it is $5,571,821.
5571.
That's the number I provided.
Okay.
If I could, with the clerk reading back the resolution, I think we need to be specific as to the 2024 fund balance somewhere in that motion.
So the motion was
Good
to
point.
suspend
But
the
we
fund
cleared the
balance
floor, right?
in
We
for
did.
2025.
Okay, so we're starting fresh.
We are.
Sorry.
So Dean make the motion.
Yeah, the policy, you're suspending a policy in 2025 for the 2024 surplus funds in the amount of $5.5 million.
Perfect.
Then I will make the motion
There you go.
that the Board of Commissioners suspend the fund balance in 2025 for the 2024 surplus funds in the amount of $5.571 million to fund Project Alpha.
Second. So we have a motion by Commissioner Andrews, second by Commissioner Seifert. Any discussion while Sam's writing that? Questions? All set? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, moving right along. Fantastic. Going to the Health Department, Mr. Leahy, Director Leahy, excuse me.
Good morning, Board. Here to review the proposed fee schedule update for the Health Department, specifically the Division of Environmental Health. It was before the Board, I believe it was the 3rd of December, or maybe prior, the meeting prior likely. With this proposal, the request was to provide some more information, comparative analysis year over year as to where we were in 25 and what our proposal are for 26, and also an analysis across jurisdictions. So what are our neighbors charging for some of these fees? In addition to that, we have 2 adjustments to programs and services in which we're making within the Health Department's Environmental Health Division that require adjustments to the fees. That's the addition of the on-site wastewater program regulation. That has a fee schedule, and the adjustment, pending adjustment to the body art regulation, which we had a public hearing on last meeting and we'll be bringing forward this next meeting for repeal for 2026. So on pages 6 and 7, I believe, you see those 2 items. Yep, 6 and 7 are time of transfer and body art. And then following 6 and 7 is an analysis year over year, what our adjustments are proposed, and then also comparing ourselves to our peers in Benzie-Leelanau District Health Department and then Health Department of Northwest Michigan, which is really kind of Antrim County all the way to the northern tip of the mitt there. And the biggest adjustment really was some in our septic programming. We really kind of threw that dart at the middle. We're not the highest in any of the columns between those 3 health departments that are compared. There's a large discrepancy there, it seems, between the 3, and we tried to kind of be that average number right in between. We did do some consolidation of some stuff, some of the things that just didn't make sense, and it was feedback we got from builders and developers on the whys, so we did some consolidation as well.
Thank you for doing that research with the actual users. I think that's helpful.
Yeah, I really appreciate this information. We can go back to our local districts in this county and say, you know, we're competitive pricing wise with other counties. This is what they charge. You know, we're not hiking up fees and just trying to cash grab, but we're keeping things reasonable. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you. I think this division here does a really good job. We've asked this team here to review this every 24 months. And, you know, I have a hard time sometimes comparing ourselves to Benzie, Leelanau, in Antrim County and some of that, we're just different. The business in the county's different, and it's just us kind of threading that needle, finding, and a lot of it is good input from developers in our community. If we're charging too high from something, we'll hear about it.
Commissioner Walter.
I mean, it's one thing to throw a dart at something, but
Yeah.
what's the analysis of, like, how much things cost versus
Yeah.
the fees? Not just,
So
we're in the middle because we
Yep.
want to be in the middle.
So revenue over expenditures is something that we live in. We have a finance director at the health department. We did request to add some FTEs to the staffing plan, one for the regulation. So throwing a dart is kind of a layman's way to explain it, but really we live on that revenues over expenditures and that personnel line item. We do a couple things within the environmental health division that are not mandated services under the public health code. Soil erosion is one, and we're absorbing a work within the regulations. So that's what we're really gauge it on is, are we matching our revenues over expenditures with that personnel line item? And if not, where are our grant dollars at? Can our grant dollars support those lines? And if not, are our fees adequate? And if not, how do we adjust them? That isn't just matching the next highest, but does that calculation as to this will get us to that net neutral line item for the 2026 compared to 2025's numbers.
And those numbers are based on kind of historical input of those
Yep.
fees, general use over the last several years
Yep.
or something? Okay.
Yeah, we have a scorecard where we can tell you just how many permits we did for every single program within a division. So yes.
Does the fact that Benzie, Leelanau, and is it Health Department Northwest don't have any fees for soil erosion just reflect that that's not done at those departments?
Correct.
Someone
Yes.
else, their drain commissioners?
Drain Commission, Land Conservancy, some townships, it's spread
not
a
that
little
they're
different.
free.
Yes, absolutely.
So during the budget process, one of the requests for departments and offices was to review their fee schedule to determine if their fees were still appropriate for 2026. We went through a decent process with that discussion. There were a couple departments that wanted to hold off because they were in the middle of reviewing fees at a higher level. So because of the new septic ordinance, Mr. Leahy has asked us to move this forward for 2026 so that we can be certain to have the funds required to manage that program. So he would need a motion to, we would need a motion to accept his fee schedule as presented.
I move to accept the fee schedule as presented.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Hensel, support by Commissioner Nelson, or second rather, to support the Health Department fee schedule as presented. Discussion, questions, comments, concerns, Commissioner Walter?
Just a question about how you plan to communicate these fee schedule changes, especially to some of your regular
Yep.
fee clients? I don't know.
Absolutely. We've done it a multitude of ways. We definitely have our frequent applicants who we kind of have those conversations with this time of year. We do all the postings on our social media accounts and all of that and do some targeted outreach just for those who are, we have everyone's contacts who have applied for permitting, whether it's their email or mailing address. We try to stick to those emails now. We can do a press release. We have done that in the past when it's been a significant adjustment. This could qualify for that, I think, just given the adjustments with body art and the regulation. That is on the table to be considered, in addition to just our normal communication pathways with our residents.
Commissioner Hensel.
Thank you. I noticed there's a different fee when you do a septic system. If you're doing I'll call it a non-traditional septic. There are some newer models, and with the new standards, a lot of our parcels, especially around the lakes areas, maybe a traditional model just won't work, and they'll have to go to one of these new call it an
ATS,
exotic
yeah,
model
yeah,
of
yeah.
septic system.
Yep.
My concern is how much we charge to inspect that.
Yeah.
It's significantly higher, and just from feedback from people from installers,
Yep.
like, I think the fees get so high and they try to skirt the rules. So it was
Yeah.
reported to me by one constituent that the installer said, well, if we don't do any permits on this and you don't tell the health department, I can save you a couple grand. Sometimes we're pricing ourselves out of the
Yeah.
purpose of doing the inspection from
Yep.
the point. Can you speak to that?
So that's a totally different process. Those ATS systems are engineered, while you can apply for a permit and have those renderings drawn, just reviewed by our staff in the office, and inspected and approved. Those require consultation with our sanitarian to review the engineered plans. Because of the elevated system, a lot of times they're required because of the soil composition, right? It may not be the most beneficial sandy soil. You're working in a heavy clay. So we do a lot of that consultation. We also try to do, we get a lot of questions too from potential buyers or developers, right? Like we try not to advise people on what to buy or not buy, right? Based off what you can or cannot do. But we do like to try to educate people so that they don't acquire a parcel and then find out, yes, I would plan to put a
the last thing to think
$30,000
about.
system
Yeah.
in, but now I have to put a six-figure ATS system in, right? Which is an engineered, pretty expansive process. So there is a little bit more of a labor-intensive process that goes into it, and it's written into our public health code. Some public health departments don't offer those, just in general, just because of the complexities around them. So that's kind of the reasoning around that.
Okay, so like if I put up a commercial building, I have to provide the health department, or the codes department with a stamped engineer drawing.
If it requires that type of system, right?
And so I guess the septic version of this would be, you need an engineered septic system based on your soil composition and available
Yep.
land and expected flow.
Mhm.
But I just would like to see those fees be a little more reasonable down the
yeah.
road. I mean, I'm going to support what you're requesting today, but just to put that out there, that more and more technology increases, people find new ways of doing things, and there are some crazy odd parcels. If we look
Yep.
at our land bank, a lot of the reasons those parcels end up in the land bank is they're just untenable properties to do things with.
Right.
So it'd be great to encourage people to be more innovative, as long as our environment is safe and secure.
We can absolutely, like I said, we like to take a look at this every 24 months, absolutely on the table to reconsider that and
Thank
look
you.
into it.
Commissioner Andrews.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's an interesting observation, and I don't disagree with, we don't want to add administrative costs that become prohibitive of doing the right thing for the environment. On the other hand, if someone's putting in a, multi-million-dollar house on a parcel right on the lake, and the only way they can do that with septic is to have an ATS, I'm not really concerned about the added cost, given that it is a direct cost to the county to oversee it. My question for you is, what is the mechanism to help somebody who's found their system, the system has degraded over time, they've lived there for 50 years, and it's a failing system, and frankly, the only option really to stay in home is to have an improved system. Do we have a funding mechanism that helps very low-income people who need this in order to stay there, and how do we address those situations?
So we dove into this mightily just looking at the regulation, right? That we didn't want to regulate people out of their homes when it comes to wastewater. So we locally do not have a funding mechanism to support those who may need to replace their system. When I say we don't put eviction notices on doors, right, with the timestamps. There are ways that we can work with them kind of over time to address their system to eventually get to a point with replacing it. There is a state program that does offer funds that is an application process that you can apply for. I do believe at the moment it uses that state poverty the national poverty standard lines to compute that household income, if you qualify for that or not. I've heard mixed reviews on that, right? It's a great program, and it does work in our community. I think we've done a handful of them over the years. We've helped the residents who apply for that permit and for that funding. But it can't, there's always going to be those bubble households who make just enough to be not included in that, that funding support.
I understand NMCAA has a fund for housing that can help people stay in home if, their roof's leaking and their toilets, need to be flushed, whatever, rotored or whatever, improvements in their home. Is that fund available, does anyone know, for things outside the four walls of the home to include septic?
So
We have assisted probably not a lot of homeowners, but some of those, the program income from those loans that we administer have been used for those septic systems. I remember at least 2 or 3 over the years that we've.
I will work with Director Leahy. We do have a home rehabilitation trust fund that it's not explicitly for septic, failed septic, but it definitely edges around it. So I think that if that's something of interest, we could certainly amend that policy to make sure that we have the ability to use those funds.
As we are entering into the beginning of a process where we now actually should be identifying systems before they fail, having a safety net available to help when we discover those seems like a good sort of sister policy to the time of transfer.
A lot of that stuff is done through the Land Bank and Habitat for Humanity. Just what you're talking about right there. We've done quite a bit of rehabs for homes where people could stay in when they were unsafe.
And that's where that trust fund lives, right? It's
Yep.
through the land bank.
I believe so. Is that not correct, Director Bott?
Correct, currently.
Chris, did you mention the Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency's Emergency Home Repair Program? Or somebody over there?
Yeah.
TJ did.
Just want to make sure all available resources include the septic when it becomes an issue, if it becomes an issue.
Any more comments, questions, or concerns? We have a motion on the floor, right? Do we?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Man, it's been a minute. Seeing there's no more comments, questions, or concerns, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Thank you, Director Leahy.
Similarly, our Director of the Commission on Aging, Alana Payne, is here. You have in front of you a proposed fee schedule for Commission on Aging. Similarly situated because of some changes in their fee schedule. Director Payne would like to have the Board of Commissioners consider approving this fee schedule for 2026.
Can I make a point of order?
Sure.
Is this on our agenda?
It's part of the budget discussion.
Isn't it D4 or 5D?
My only concern is I don't see it spelled out. If it's part, I'm not sure which part of D it would come under.
Great point, Commissioner Andrews.
And because this is a special meeting that we had to specifically identify what was on the agenda, and because this does affect people in the community, I do have some concern about adjusting the agenda.
Well,
It's not clear to me that it's there.
It is part of the budget, but.
my proposal then would be that you hear from Director Payne, and then we'll bring it back for the 17th meeting as a recommendation.
That makes sense.
Everybody good with that? Please continue.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Lana Payne, Director of the Commission on Aging here in Grand Traverse County, and Mr. Alger did ask me to come in and present this to you today. Our budget numbers were based on this reduced fee scale. So I thought first it would be helpful to give you just a really brief overview of kind of what the fee scale, what that's looked like over the years for the Commission on Aging. It's been all over the place over the last 30 years or so. Originally, we had always charged fees. There, probably 20 years ago, there was a period of time where they said, no, let's don't charge any fees for our services. And what they found, my understanding is that it really kind of devalued and undervalued those services. And over time, that the board at that time reinstated fees for the Commission on Aging. Our fee scale is separated by income level. And we figure tiers is what we call them, tier 1 through 5. And tiers 1 and 2 are our lowest income clients, and then everything is by graduated scale there. We use each year in January, we look at federal poverty levels, and so each year we reanalyze our fee scale and readjust those income levels based on poverty levels. So tier 1 and tier 2 are under 200% of poverty level and 250% of poverty level. So about 70 to 75% of our clients don't get charged at all. So the changes that we are suggesting and the simplification that we're suggesting impacts those folks that are in tier 3, 4, and 5 who have a little bit higher income levels and do pay for services. I think it's important to note that over the last few years, as I've been director, I've worked with Mr. Bott quite a lot to simplify the accounting processes at the Commission on Aging. For many years, it was really every penny was allocated to each particular program. So all personnel costs went into that program, like for instance, outdoor services, everything was specifically divided by that program. We no longer do our budgeting that way because that was so complicated. We had to split everything that was a shared cost across 8 programs, and it was really labor intensive. So we have simplified that a lot. Everything that can just be generalized is now put into administration for us, into one fund. So all of our personnel expenses are all together in one fund. All of our mileage expenses are all together. Some of those things we used to divvy out across all programs is now way simplified for us and for the finance department. But because of that, you know, years ago, those fee structures that you see in the original one were based on the expenses in those programs. We're not really looking at our programs that way. We're looking at more just that overall cost of what it costs to run the Commission on Aging. And so we're not looking at the cost of outdoor services and totally basing fees on that. And they were no longer covering that in any way that made sense. So we really just wanted to dial back and charge the same fees across the board for similar things. So we wanted to no longer charge a different fee if they had outdoor services from a Commission on Aging worker versus a vendor. We no longer wanted to charge different fees to clients depending on which emergency response button they had. We really just wanted to simplify this so that when we're trying to explain the way our fees work, that this is what we have come up with, is what we've dialed back on. So you have the 2025 fee scale, which is blue, and then you have all of my little notes on what we wanted to change. But the other piece that you have, then the final piece, is just a simplification of the form itself. We felt our other format was really hard to understand, and this is the main thing. We just have had such a challenge explaining the way the fees are. So now all in-home services are charged at either $10, $20, or $30 an hour based on what service that you're getting. All of our outdoor services would be $5, $15, and $25 an hour, and everything is evened out to $5 increments. We had these weird $28 an hour, just odd numbers. So the bottom line is, and the question that we have for you to think about is that this actually results in a net loss of revenue of about $12,000 a year, if I base it on 2024 numbers. So every year I conservatively budget $100,000 in revenue from our fees. And each year we are over that a bit. I have, for 2025, 10 months in, we've got almost $122,000 in revenue and fees. So we've more than met what I budgeted for revenue. So that part of it is not an issue. If we lose the 12 grand in revenue estimated, I don't think that's a significant impact on the revenue that we have to work for. And I think the simplification of the process for everyone involved makes it worthwhile doing that. And the significant amount of impact in the reduced fees would be to our tier 3 clients. So those are the first paying tier that are the lowest income of those folks who pay. So I think that just gives back that millage funding back to the community. And my opinion and the opinion of the COA Advisory Board is that this is a reasonable request and a reasonable change to our fee scale.
Thank you. Commissioner Henschel.
Same question I asked Director Leahy is, can you give us a side-by-side comparison of area, counties? I don't think there's one without a Commission on Aging, is there?
They all have some form
Yeah.
of services for seniors.
I'm curious what, if someone crosses that county line, what would the fee schedule look like in surrounding counties? And
I can look for other fee schedules. We do provide a lot more in-home services than most of them. Like Leelanau County provides a voucher for any services, and then it's up to the client to spend that money on a vendor on their own. Many of the COAs primarily do senior center meals on wheels. So many of them are not providing the kinds of services that we do. We're really fortunate here, but I can certainly find that and send that on.
yeah, seeing as we're not going to vote on it today, it would be great if when we vote, we have that
Sure.
in front of us. And I understand the purpose of the Commission on Aging is to keep aging people in their homes as long as possible.
Yes, 100%.
And provide those supports. And I get that where people who have a bigger income, we're asking them to chip in and, in a way, ration services for people who can't afford it, who are most likely to lose their home if they didn't have these supports or not be able to stay home. So that's great. Keeping in mind the purpose, and, you mentioned you lost revenue. Well, we don't expect you to make money. This
Exactly.
is a tax fundy. This isn't a producing, this is a consuming part of our economy, and it's appropriately so. So thank you for that and the work you do. The other question I had is a little bit off topic of the fees is, my understanding is if someone under 65 resides in a home, certain things are not available to them? Or that people in that home, is that correct?
So the age is 60. So
60.
you have to be 60 to qualify for services. You have to live in Grand Traverse County and just live in Grand Traverse County, be 60 years of age or older. So where it becomes complicated is when there is someone able-bodied under the age of 60 living in a home. We have to really look very carefully at what we can and can't provide in that home. We can't do services there that benefit the non-senior. We can't spend our millage dollars to plow a driveway when there's a 25-year-old young person living there, able-bodied, who should be taking care of that. We can clean a particular area of the home that the senior lives in, say if they're staying with their son or daughter, live with them, and we can clean their particular area, but we can't clean that whole home.
Okay.
We can't clean shared areas or do those outdoor services.
That's understandable. In the policy, do you define what it means to be living somewhere?
What it means to be living.
Yeah, so legally, like if I rent you a place to stay, if you're not there 31 days or over 30 days, it's not your residence. At 30, then you have certain rights under law as it is your residence. Do you follow that rule? Or if, someone's daughter comes to visit them for a week, do you cut off services for a week?
No, if it's a permanent move. And we work with people for a long time.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes us a while to figure out if it's a permanent move-in or not.
Okay.
So we have to do quite a bit of investigating to try to figure that out. And it's a tough piece of what we do because we understand the need for assisting and living with each other and that kind of thing, but we have to be very good stewards of the millage dollars that can only be spent to benefit seniors. If there is a disabled person who's receiving disability income in the home and they're not 60, that does not play into it. We can still provide all the services. It's when there's an able-bodied younger person living.
Is all of this documented in policies that are publicly available?
Yes.
As to how you determine whether someone lives there or, I've had some complaints, and that's why I bring it up.
Right. As far as residency, I mean, if it really comes down to it, for the homeowner themselves, we've had people provide their proof of property tax exemption, because we have people who have two homes. So we need to know, is this their residence? Is Florida their residence? We've had sons who've moved in with a mom and says it's temporary, and after 4 months or so, we start to say, hey, if this isn't temporary, we have to do something different here. We can't continue to mow grass for you because you're 40 years old and you're capable of doing that.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
Any more questions? Comments, concerns? Thank you for your time. Oh,
Okay.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So if there's not any objections, I'm going to call it 11-minute break. Come back at 10:30.
5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Is it a sign?
bylaws, and we refer back to Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order says Sure does, I read it.
No, that's all right.
I can't see my glasses. You'll have to wait.
Yeah, I,
Thought of it, get into dementia.
I know.
Horror stories about happening to people at a really early age. I'm like,
The early onset.
yeah.
Yeah, that is scary to me.
We don't really have it in our family. I don't know.
I have a pavilion.
So far, so good.
But
I wonder if
I
that
don't make it
Today?
happen.
is, I don't know.
That one and then
Both my grandpas died. They were both old. It wasn't early onset.
Oh, good.
Well, it's hopefully be quick, I don't.
They drink a lot. I was worried about
One
my
did and one didn't at all. So, it's like.
I was
So,
thinking about that. I'm
who
like,
knows?
well, I don't think it. I know a lot of like sharp people who drank a lot.
I know, that feels kind of like a crapshoot too, because, yeah, there is some correlation to, disease, but then there's also those
Rob and I are gonna sit there and say, we told you so.
anecdotal people
I'll tell you after the meeting.
who drank too much.
30 seconds notice, please, 30 seconds.
Right.
I don't like, that I think is like genetic.
Yeah.
my credit card.
Uh-oh. Is it one of your kids?
I'm glad we had this commission on aging.
Late on QVC? QVC a thing anymore?
Barry, he's down in Mason County, poor guy. He chose 80, he chose to live far
you
away
know,
from us.
those little
and now
kids
it's
and
like starting to kind
The
of.
Prince of Nigeria doesn't give away all that money without getting it somewhere.
My check is just about here, he told me. Just gotta send him some postage.
$4,000 worth, right? All right, we're gonna call this meeting back to order, 10:32. And we are on, let me see, 5E, Sheriff's Staffing Plan.
actually 5D.
Is it 5D? Oh, are we
Wait.
still on 5D?
But you can skip
We
it.
didn't even
No,
get
we
into
didn't
it
finish
yet.
it. Let's keep going. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr.
It's awful
Chairman.
not having my glasses, I tell you.
So, yeah,
No, I'm good.
all right. I don't have conjunctivitis or anything. My apologies. So the budget memo is in a draft form, certainly. We have had several drafts as we've gone through this process, to include 4 drafts once administrative actually started creating the memo. If there are questions about the memo, now would be a good time to ask them, but I would like to kind of focus on the pending matters, because those are something that we would need some action on today or on the 17th to include in the budget appropriations resolution. That is on page 16 of 17. Some of this we can account for. Mr. Bott and I have had conversations about the 457 decision that the Board of Commissioners made. We fully support that decision, and I just wanted to let you know that in the initial budget forecast of the $55,907,000, that contribution was not contemplated for that budget. We don't have a lot of concern about that due to the fact that we know that there will be unexpended personnel costs in 2026. And Mr. Bott is asking that we just let him and his staff manage that contribution throughout the year of 2026. The operations audit that we have had conversation about, we did some research on that, and depending on the scope of the audit, the size and scope for a 580 person operation with 27 independent offices and departments, that could be between $300,000 and $800,000. That's a big gap. We have talked internally about focusing that audit more narrowly for 2026, so that we can A, control the cost, and B, do it systematically and within a system that makes sense, so to speak. So internally, we are looking at, should we, because we're going through a Justice Facility Advisory Committee, looking at building a new justice facility, should we focus that audit on everything that would be touching that facility? Specifically the Sheriff's Department, the courts, the prosecutor, focusing that audit down to public safety would manage that cost. And we would likely have the lower end of that expenditure versus the higher. In addition to that, the benefit would be we would have a clean version of what do we look like for the justice facility. Any questions about that concept? So that, neither the 300 nor the $800,000 is within the budget currently. The next discussion would be this community development and coordination concept. You know, we didn't have that number in the initial budget that we provided to you. We are believing that if fully implemented at two employees, that would cost around $300,000 to start, knowing that we are not in a position to start January 1 with those 2 employees. Chris Maxwell and I have had a conversation about what would that look like. Is that June? Is that July? So we anticipate something less than $300,000, but we would likely spend around $150,000. So that $150,000 would need to be included in this budget as well. And then lastly, our project management engagements that we've recently engaged in with Plant Moran and GFC. GFC is the jail consultant. That total is $385,000, and that would need to be added to this budget as well. So while we know we can cover some of this, it's not all there. So just wanted to have this discussion with you today so that we can kind of pin in what we're going to be putting in the budget for December 17th for the public hearing and the appropriations resolution. Any comments or questions?
Commissioner Henschel.
So I see the addition you just talked about of correct me if I'm wrong, planning people, right? Planning personnel, is that?
Yes.
I mean, you call it community coordination, and that's probably a better word, but do we have a program pre-established? Do we have like, okay, these are your objectives, this is what we want to accomplish through these positions, and these are the services provided to the community? Or are we going to basically hire people and say, write your program and tell us what you're going to do?
So we have, part of the discussion that we most recently have is there is a desire to engage a consultant of some sort to come up with what does planning, what does community coordination look like within our community, within Grand Traverse County. We have received an inquiry from a master's level student who is in this planning arena. It lives locally. We would like to maybe bring her on as an intern to help us go through the planning of a planning process. How do we get to what does that function look like in Grand Traverse County? It's not completely foreign to us. You're well aware.
Yeah,
2015, we had a.
It's only been a few years.
Yeah. we had a full complement of planning employees, so it's not that today. It's something different, and I would invite Maxwell if he wishes to have any comment with his thoughts as well. But yes, that's kind of our goal at this point in time.
Okay. I really hope we thread the needle on this and come up with what's right for the community, not just one more layer of bureaucracy, but look, how can we serve the community? And I think historically what we had wasn't providing enough utility to the other units of government to keep it around. And I think instead of it developing into something more useful, it just went away because budget was tight and it was easy. So, I mean, I'm not totally opposed to having a placeholder in the budget, but I hope that's not just we're throwing money at a problem and hoping things get better. We're actually going to work through it, talk through it, and have a very specific plan in place.
Can you or Maxwell maybe speak to this idea of a kind of planning consultant slash intern graduate student and what that process would look like? That piqued my interest, and it's the first I'd heard of that idea, but I think it's a good one.
Maxwell, please.
Man with the answers.
Hi, good morning. Maxwell Cameron, Community Development Coordinator for Grand Traverse County. So I think to answer or perhaps address a couple of the questions that were raised, our first step in this process is understanding where we can add the most amount of value to our community. And it's going to be great to spend the first part of next year better understanding, what our community development office framework however you want to characterize it, is going to look. And so we would like to engage a consultant through a solicitation process to help us review best practices, models that are utilized in other communities, as well as stakeholder engagement with our community, just to best understand how this could potentially be designed, give us options to review that we would, of course, share, and then from there, we would have that placeholder within the budget to make hiring decisions moving forward, as Mr. Alger indicated, sometime, perhaps mid-next year.
Do we have a budget for this consultancy?
We do not have a budget current within the 2026 budget. We do have, this board has previously approved intern positions that we could hire up, I think it was up to 3 a year. But the answer is directly.
So that's in the budget? Okay. So that's where that would
That's where
come
the
from,
intern would be paid, yes.
if we go that route.
Direct response to your question, though, Commissioner, there is not a earmark within the 26 budget for consultant for planning purposes.
Commissioner Henson.
Mr. Cameron, over 2,000 counties in the United States of America, 83 in Michigan, where we have the township model. I think maybe 5 states actually have a township model of some sort. Out of all of the counties available to look at what they're doing, what would you say are the top few that you think we should really look at their model for community coordination and possibly adopting all or parts of it?
So if we look at some other examples in the state of Michigan, I think that some models to review would be Emmett County, Kalamazoo County, and Kent County.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Nelson, you had your hand up.
Mr. Henschel had a very good question, I think highly intelligent, and that was basically the question I was going to ask you is, are there other models in Michigan that you're looking to duplicate? And then secondly, I would encourage, and I think you will, work with the townships as you're developing this plan. And I know you're
absolutely.
You're in tune with that, so.
Commissioner Spence?
Thank you. So I did ask my 2 townships that I serve what they thought of it, and I think that that was a good bottom-up approach to getting their thoughts about it, and I have to say they were positive. One township doesn't have a planning department, and I think they could really benefit from the tying together of adjacent townships that they join with. One of the things that I'll use as an example that is really critical to support what we're talking about is that Silver Lake drain and the Silver Lake to Duck Lake connection. That infrastructure is eroding. I saw it. I have pictures of it if anybody wants to see them. That takes planning. It takes coordination. It takes an alignment between the different townships. And I'm getting some positive feedback from our townships that they need that coordination to help them link together better. And it is a layer of government, but I don't think that it's going to impede or hinder our progress moving forward. I think it's going to help us to work more efficiently and effectively with limited resources. So thank you. I really appreciate your homework on this, Maxwell.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yeah, I agree with the approach that we need to identify the problem we're trying to solve before we hire staff that we haven't quite defined what role they are. I do want to just emphasize that in addition to our role as the regional entity that is, overseeing and has representation from across the county. So I think of the Frankie Road discussions that have been ongoing where there are multiple governments involved, and the county doesn't have a person whose job it is to participate and ensure that those are moving along in our interest. So I acknowledge that there is an external element of planning, but I also think that we have planning internally. We have facilities, we have parks, we have infrastructure, we have investments we're making, and we having the capacity for planning. We have grants we're not writing, we think. So I don't want to entirely look at this as what do the townships need us to do. I think we also need to think about what do we need us internally to be able to do in terms of the concept of planning, whether it's strategic planning or whether it's measurable outcomes that are being added into our strategic planning. Those are all functions that I think this department would be responsible for, my opinion.
Well, and I think it's even broader, right? It's helping to coordinate what the MPO is doing and what the DPW has got going on. Traverse City, like not just townships, villages, our nonprofit organizations that are involved in housing development. Like there's so much that needs a little more regional coordination that this would be really helpful with. So I appreciate, and I agree, I'm looking forward to, I think, putting some money in the budget for staffing maybe midway through the year and working on consultant situation. But I'm not totally convinced on this intern idea. I don't know. I'm kind of like maybe an RFP for a planning consultant might be better, and maybe it is an intern that's the best fit, but I'm not sure.
So when we've talked internally, it wasn't a, do we go with intern or consultant? I think it was a kind of a both approach, where we get a master's level intern who can maybe help us with some, data mining, organization, some of the more of the legwork to really help us with the future engagement, as well as, we could recreate what was done before, but we don't want to do that. But there is a ton of data in various files that we need to go through, understand, review to help us to plan forward. So it wasn't we either get an intern or go to a consultant. It was a kind of all the above type approach.
Well, would this $150,000, which is kind of a suggested placeholder right now, include a consultant? Is that what you're envisioning with that?
We don't, honestly, we just don't know at this point.
I should mention that we did pursue some funding through the marijuana funds to help with a consultant, just kind of thinking about this in the future. This is also potentially a project that our EDC could help support, so there are ways that we could look to that, but the first step is really the consultant and needing to develop an RFP and getting that out there.
So I have a question, Mr. Cameron. So if a municipality does a new master plan, aren't they required by state statute to submit that to somebody?
That would be a function of a planning commission on our county level, yes.
So we are still doing planning then, because I know they're not stopped doing master planning. Don't we hire that out currently? That Works Northwest, does it?
When we receive master plan changes, they essentially go unread. We have received them. I believe they're required to submit to adjacent municipalities, and we just don't have anybody that reads them.
All right, thank you.
So if nothing further, I guess my recommendation would be that we put $400,000 in the budget for an operational audit. We put the $150 in the budget for the planning and coordination effort. If you want to include additional funding for, we just don't know what the scope of work would be for a consultant and what that cost would look like. And lastly, the $385,000 for the last two engagements with GFC and Plant Moran Real Point. Put that into the budget that was presented to you previously, the 55,907 number, and direct staff to either find increased revenues or address additional existing costs to recover that $935,000. Now, we also have identified through the budget process a $3 million amount that we could use for Project Alpha in terms of a down payment. We could easily address that with that as well. I don't know that I'd recommend it, but that is something that the board could consider as well.
You mentioned the 500, or up to 500,000, it's an unknown number for the 457 account contributions that we would just, you said just manage that internally and not have a budget allocation?
So the surplus funds that you just addressed today, we believe that we will have surplus funds in 2026 as well due to the unexpended personnel costs. And we always beat the budget. And we don't know, so if we have 500 employees that are eligible for 457, we doubt all 500 will open a 457. We just don't know what that number is. We know what it is now. It's a small percentage of staff that actually engage in a 457. So we know there's a lot of positive energy around it. And Mr. Bott thinks that just through the course of the year, watching the budget, he can manage that cost. Correct?
Yes, I do.
I don't understand why we wouldn't just budget a certain amount for that, though, and try to just find the money as the year goes on. Like,
Well,
what's the value in that?
The first challenge would be, I don't know where those costs are going to land, and I want to charge that cost to all of the different payroll cost centers, because in some cases, there's grant recovery. Those costs that end up in a court budget, we recover from 2 other counties. I don't know how to budget that. I don't know how many, we currently only have 143 people that are contributing to a deferred comp plan. So is it 143,000 or is it 500,000?
And do those personnel costs come out of the Department of Public Works? Do they come out of dispatch? Do they come out of the Commission on Aging? It is a moving target. But there's nothing to say we can't do that.
Well, I certainly can't do that between now and next Wednesday. That's impossible.
Do we have a contingency component in our budget?
$950,000 contingency.
So theoretically, for purposes of a balanced budget, we could allocate all of these from the contingency fund to the general fund, and then as the budget goes along next year, as they move into different components, we could adjust the budget to refund, so to speak, the contingency. I mean, just from a making sure we're not incurring costs that there isn't a corresponding place in the budget that they're theoretically available to come out of concern.
That's actually a great idea. We do have a small amount of those contingency funds budgeted for a couple of appropriations to townships. I mean, that is a good idea. That would leave you, though, with no general contingency.
So if the general understanding would be that in the event that we have a contingency that can't be funded, we would come back to the board and ask for leeway and ask for additional funds to be added to contingencies, we could support that.
The most conservative thing to do would be to try to cover anything that we're adding at this point within the existing $55.9 million budget. I'm confident we can manage it over the course of a full fiscal year, and I am confident that we will have additional revenue that has not been budgeted, but I don't want to take my revenue estimates up at this time.
Mr. Anschel.
I just want to say I like what I'm hearing is that we have a fixed pie of a budget, and we're going to use that pie to create as much value for our constituents as possible in every way possible, and not leave any gaps in the services that statutorily and generally counties bring. So what I'm hearing is if we don't put this in the budget, but it has value, we'll find the money for it. If it proves itself to have value, if we don't have this money set aside, we have a contingency fund, we can take away an FTE over here to put an FTE over here, so either way, if this program has value, it's going to be funded.
Well, we are going to manage the budget, and we are going to beat the budget.
Both of you. So You have a recommendation. Do I entertain a motion?
We're scheduling this for a public hearing next week, that's the
That is
motion?
correct. It's already been posted. It has been in the paper for a couple of days now at least.
I think we,
If you're going to do something other than work within the budget, if you wanted staff to go decrease expenditures to recoup that 935 or increase revenues to the 935, we would need direction from the board to do so. But absent those two scenarios, we can come back to you on the 17th with a budget recommendation that would, in the appropriate resolution. We just need guidance, and I think we have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, everyone. No more comments, questions, concerns on that topic? We're going to move right along.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now we're at 9E.
can you read it?
I can now once I go like this.
So this has been a discussion for 2 years, 3 years, Sheriff. I'm not exactly sure how many years, but
Nobody cares.
the Detective Bureau has a staffing plan. The Road Patrol has a staffing plan. Secondary Roads has a staffing plan. TNT has a staffing plan. The jail has a staffing plan. And because law enforcement is this large amount of general fund dollars that commingles, each of those funds, though, have dollars associated with them for personnel costs. But because of vacancies and well-suited funding for personnel, the sheriff has been able to manage his staff, law enforcement staff, to allow an additional detective within the Detective Bureau. We've known about it. We've talked about it at the board level. It's been acknowledged. We want to bring it to light again that the staffing plan is not in sync. There's an additional detective position within the Detective Bureau that was a law enforcement position, but now I think as you get close to full staff, that could get to a pinch point where the staffing plan is challenged. So Mr. Vaught and I, early on in this process, we want to bring it into line. So I think there either needs to be an increase in what was 312 cost center, the Detective Bureau cost center, or just would like to bring the staffing plan into compliance. Anything, Sheriff?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So back in 2022, I was under sheriff. I was involved in a conversation with the then Sheriff Bensley, now under Sheriff Fulis, Captain Clark, the administrator, and Mr. Bott. And it was identified that another forensic analyst was needed. And is that the term I want to use? Forensic analyst? Computer, electronic analyst, and detective. Keep it simple. And at that time, the board was not addressing any additional FTEs. And we saw that there was money in the budget that we could fund that position in 2022 with the verbal agreement that at some point this would be addressed and our staffing plan would be adjusted. Well, here we are now and almost done with 2025, and that position has, from 23 to 24 and 25 and moving into 26, has been budgeted. We have just done our budgeting accordingly with going from 10 detectives to 11. And I would present to Mr. Bott, am I correct in saying from a personnel standpoint that same thing has taken place?
Well, they've covered the additional FTE within the entire sheriff's office, but the staffing plan doesn't reflect the additional FTE. So at some point in time, as Administrator Alger is saying, if we were at full staff, we're under budget by 1 FTE in the sheriff's office. We've been fortunate that there's always vacancies, primarily within the corrections division that covers that. Last year I did have to do a budget amendment to cover the additional personnel costs. I have not done that analysis yet. for this year. It will be covered within the entire sheriff's office, but as budgets get tighter, I mean, there's the potential that because we're not in sync with the staffing plan, that we have a budget issue at some point.
In the event that current administrator, current finance director, current sheriff, current undersheriff, current captain of the detective bureau, if something changes with those groups, those people, this is an unknown. Somebody new comes in, they're going to look at a staffing plan, they're going to say, I'm going to budget 10 detectives, not 11, and I'm going to budget however many number of law enforcement officers you have on the road patrol, not the -1. So it's just, it's a maybe insignificant, but it is something that we would like to clean up. And I think there's value. There's a value in that second forensic analysis, computer forensic analysis position. So I'm not saying decrease the number of detectives necessarily. I'm just saying we need to find a way to keep it in sync.
So if I could just add to that, what I would ask, this is my ask, is that that adjustment is made, that instead of on paper us showing 10 detectives, we have 11. And then moving forward, when I say moving forward, we've already shown this, that we are looking at our current vacancies and we are kind of reclassifying and deciding where those vacancies can be better used. So before this board even asked us to look at our vacancies, our office took it upon themselves and we took one of our vacancies from the corrections division and reclassified it to a diversion discharge planner. And that has proven to be incredibly successful. And as I mentioned to the board chair, the person that filled that and myself have wanted to get in front of you and just have you basically say, sit back for 5-10 minutes. We want to show you a presentation of what has been accomplished in the last year. Because your agenda packets, last week's being 700 pages, we haven't had the opportunity to do that. We want to do that so you can see the benefit. My point to this is we're being proactive on what I think your requests in the direction that you want to go is, which is analyze your vacancies that historically you haven't been able to fill, and when you need another position, take it from that staffing plan and reclassify it. With your blessings, we can do that. But I think we need to establish our baseline right now moving forward to accomplish what our long-term goal is. And I won't get into the muddying the water on what all that looks like, but I will tell you there's been numerous conversations between Mr. Leahy and myself, with the administrator, unions, HR, and what shuffling some of these things look like moving forward. I'm not asking you to change our budget. I'm asking you to establish ground zero so that our FTE staffing plan reflects what we currently have, and that when Mr. Bott does his personnel costs, it's appropriately assigned. That makes sense.
So I see this as an opportunity personally. I've talked to the sheriff and stuff. So is it appropriate that we bring the sheriff back with his desired staffing plan and adjustments, and we don't have to do this? I know we can implement a hiring freeze of the sheriff's department as a board. We can make that action. But I'm not going to necessarily make that motion. But my question is to Mr. Bott and the sheriff, that can we just put a pin in this? If they get their money, they're not asking for any more money. They want to shuffle the people around so that they are in compliance with how we're spending money early in the next year. So we're not actually spending more money, we're just spending it differently. I guess I'm looking for some direction from you beautiful people on my left, as well as from Director Bott and the sheriff.
Yeah, can we see the presentation that you prepared at another date at our next meeting? I just think it would be good for optics
And
and the
with all
public
due
at large.
respect, I won't be able to attend next week's meeting because I have a prior 2-day training. Unless you ask me to be here, I will do that. But that is, I don't know that that enters into the conversation about the current staffing plan.
I'm merely bringing that up for comparison that we're already doing what you have asked us to do in the last couple of months, which is look at your vacancies and see if you can't do something more efficient with them. That's what we're doing. We actually did that at the end of last year prior to you even making that request. But yes, we will bring that in front of you. Next week is not realistic for us.
Or some deliverable of some kind. I just feel like it's good to have something on paper and documented so that when people want to look at it and investigate it further, it makes sense. You know, I hear you, but I'd just like to see something documented.
Are you,
Go ahead, please.
Are you making reference to what, the detective position that we're discussing?
Yeah, the shifting around.
Okay, I think we have some data, don't we, that we can show as far as, I mean, I don't know exactly what you're.
What are we doing?
Yeah, so what I would suggest if you can't make it, so the reality of it is he's not asking for any more money. We're here to make a money decision, not a staffing plan decision. If we say, this is all the money you're getting for next year, whether it's for these 3 vacancies in corrections division or it's 3 new positions, if it's the same amount of money, personally, I don't see the difference as of today. Because today we're just talking about the dollar figure, not where it goes. I would like to see him, because, you know, as we talk about, I've had conversations also about the amount of medical spending that goes on at the sheriff's office, and I understand, we're gonna talk about that in a second, that some in-house staffing could reduce that greatly. And we heard on public comment right off the get, a gentleman was talking about it, and a psychiatrist that comes in.
Sure.
Some cost benefits. So I think that's a bigger question later on, but today we're talking about just the dollar figure. Commissioner Andrews.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry, Commissioner Walter, I apologize. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, there's item E and there's no information here, so I'm assuming we are talking about the staffing plan, because that's what it says, Sheriff's Department staffing plan. So I guess what I'd like to see is, I understand the numbers part of it, that it all washes out, but I think what we really need to see is the staffing plan. And sounds like January is a good time for that. And the numbers are there to cover this position, because it's not happening today. We don't have it to look at, and we're not happening next week. So that's what I'm assuming we need to look at, right? You need to come to us with the staffing plan that you all are talking about, but we haven't seen it. So I don't know what we're really doing here today, actually.
Well, the Board of Commissioners sets the staffing plan. That staffing plan is out of compliance.
I totally understand that, but there's nothing in front of us to look at. There's no document, there's nothing. So what do you want us to declare today, I guess?
I mean, next week, we must adopt a staffing plan. That is what we do every year at the last meeting of the year by tradition. And we will adopt a staffing plan in 1 week that will be non-compliant the minute we adopt it.
Right.
And I think what our administration and the sheriff are asking us to do is to acknowledge that there's a discrepancy in the staffing plan, and either adopt a flawed staffing plan next week, or ask for a staffing plan to be corrected by next week. But those are the 2 choices in front of us. You're right, we don't have anything to look at, and we can't react to it, but we either have to say, no, the staffing plan must be correct and it must reflect the budget, or we say, we'll adopt a budget and a staffing plan and they won't match, and we all acknowledge that, and we're going to work on fixing it.
Commissioner Nelson.
And I think to piggyback on that, we don't want to throw something last minute on the Sheriff's Department that hasn't been asked to up until this point. Your point, I think, is spot on. We need to look at this today. We need to ask any questions we have if we want some kind of a follow-up, but the plan the last couple of years hasn't worked, partly because we haven't been able to always find the staff we need. So I'm comfortable without putting added requirements onto the department at this late date moving forward.
Can I inject, when you're talking about the staffing plan, I think we're, in my opinion, I like to think simple. I have the staffing plan right here, and it's just a matter of numbers broken down by divisions. And the long story made very short is back in 2022, an additional person was added to the Detective Bureau and financed, but the staffing plan numerically didn't add that detective. So in my opinion, what I'm asking, I think in what you're asking by having this on the agenda, is that you rectify that by you either say, yeah, we're going to adjust your staffing plan by 1, or we're not. If you don't, then we have to probably lay someone off. But it's budgeted. So I don't want to complicate it, but I think we are.
We're talking about the crime analyst position?
No, we're talking about, it's a detective that analyzes cell phones, computers, and does cryptocurrency crimes and a variety of other things.
So it sounds like a crime analyst to me. I mean, layman's terms.
Well, they are different, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, that's the one you're asking for
No,
that wasn't
yeah.
recommended.
Correct.
That's why we're getting confused.
There is a request for a crime analyst position.
Okay.
That we are willing and actively looking at how we can deal with that in-house. But I'm asking, we got to start with ground zero and know where our staffing plan actually is, so that at the end of the day, you don't come back and say, wait a minute, you got this other position out here that technically isn't on your staffing plan. You have to find money to fill that after we filled these other positions or shuffled them around. That's all I think this conversation's about.
Is that written piece of paper that you just held up, is that accurate? Is that how you want it to look?
Still doesn't have, it's still short 1 FTE.
No, it's actually added on mine, because this was for my own reference. I
Yeah.
have 11 detectives instead of 10.
I mean, personally, I'd be in support of it as long as we have something on record that reflects what you have on your piece of paper, that in your, what you just said is accurate. I always think that when we move down the line in 5 months from now, we might, if we don't have things documented, it's easy to forget or not understand our rationale behind it.
Some of this also, sorry, Mr. Smith's been cut short, is that this isn't forever. If we decide 90 days down the road, we're like, hey, this is not, the staffing plan isn't working, we could change it then too. So
Okay.
my suggestion would be, why don't, even though the sheriff can't be here, could you send us that stuff to be included on the agenda for next week? Whatever your desires are, and we can evaluate that?
I'm happy to send you whatever you would like. Just make sure I'm very crystal clear on what you're asking for, because I'm not sure this is going to tell you any more than what I'm telling you right now from the number 10 to 11. That's all.
So you're saying it's fluid and it could change? Is that
It
what
won't.
I'm understanding?
Not for him.
No, it won't.
But
It changed back in 2022, but it never changed formally wherever, I guess,
But-
HR, I don't know.
I see.
We-
HR, they should be here.
we could eliminate a staffing position in the staffing plan that's at HR, at administration, from one bureau, and add one to the detective bureau next week, right? We could take a position that's been empty from corrections and eliminate it, and add a position to the detective bureau that's new, and then we have a compliant staffing plan, and the budget is right, the staffing plan is right, and no one gets fired.
Correct.
So why don't we do that?
So
Right.
give us a plan.
I thought she was going to say
Can-
transfer
can I weigh
Forsyth
in on
over
that?
to-
Sure.
Yeah, I just don't know why. we
You're
have to
now
do
getting into, by taking that one corrections vacancy that you're using as an example, out of what our strategic planning is moving forward to shuffle things around.
But that happened, that decision got made, didn't it, in 2022, when a person was added on the understanding that there was no net increase.
And it was made again in 2023.
And 24,
2024.
and 25.
And 25, because the staffing plan is out of compliance, as they say, And so that money had to come from somewhere, because we didn't approve to give them more money for that position. They use it from a vacant position. So that's been the practice all along. We're just putting it pen to paper and making it an official position.
I mean, I appreciate that eliminating a vacant position could potentially have consequences down the line, but so could adding a new position, right? Like that has a potential budget consequence. So at some point, somebody has to give, right? Like we have to either have I think we have to have a compliant staffing plan. I don't know how, as a county board, we adopt a staffing plan that we all have to hold our nose and know it's wrong. That just doesn't sound right to me. So if we need a compliant staffing plan, and we've got vacancies, and we know that next year we may add in another position to offset a vacancy, I don't know why we wouldn't eliminate a staffing plan, a position that's been vacant, and add in the detective. No, to your point, Chair, at any point, anything can change.
Well, it's not just one that's been vacant, right? Aren't there
No, there's been-
multiple? There's
I think there's
multiple,
7
right?
now, yeah.
So it's not like we're on the edge.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had several vacant for a while, correct?
We have, and if I can just inject, and thank you to our IT director, he was able to bring up that since October of '23, this has been brought forward to the board and it has not been addressed. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's not that it has been being ignored on our end. I'm just asking, in my opinion, the right thing to do is leave the vacancies the way they are currently, because we are utilizing the resources that we have amongst us to reevaluate them, and instead of us coming to this board saying, we need another one of these or another one of these, for example, the crime analysts, we are already looking at how we can utilize one of our vacancies or a portion or whatever, so that you don't have, I'd love for you to say, yeah, we'll give you that too. What I'm asking you is, don't mess with our vacancies right now. They're budgeted, as is the additional detective that's not on the books. I'm asking you to approve changing our detective staffing plan to reflect that 11 detectives are there instead of 10. This will be, well, according to that, 23, 24, 25 now.
And I'm asking for something just like that in front of me, that's what it says, and we can vote on it. There's nothing other than what you shared, which is a piece of paper that we haven't even seen. So that's all I need. I need like something to.
But what you have is you have an administration and a sheriff's department that are in lockstep on what the issue is. The issue is the law enforcement staffing plan is out of compliance by 1. The cleanest, most simple version of this is to eliminate a law enforcement 314 road patrol position, because that's where the extra detective came from. We can put that on paper, we can put it in a memo, but that is the most simple solution.
But then you're going to basically lay someone off,
Yep.
because
I understand
we're fully staffed.
I
And
understand it full circle.
if we're looking at, and I guess I'm looking at it like this, we're not asking you to change the budget. We're asking you on paper to have the staffing plan reflect what has been going on since 2022. That's all.
Director Bott, is that 11th detective position budgeted for on its own?
Not currently. It's, what we've done is we've covered it within the total personnel within the sheriff's office. So no, none of the HR, and this is not an HR issue, in our accounting system, Workday ERP, there are 10. I budgeted for 10. We have historically, since 2022, been able to cover that within the entire sheriff department budget, primarily because of the vacant positions.
Thank you. Commissioner Henschel.
I see we're in a growing county. Our population's not going down. With population comes crime. It's not going down. And I think we've been kicking this around, so I'm going to see if there's support on the board. I'm going to move that the Board of Commissioners adjust the Sheriff's Department staffing plan to reflect 11 detectives.
I support.
All right, we have a motion by, sorry, I'll get a little closer to the mic. We have a motion by Commissioner Henschel, support by Commissioner Morris, that we support expanding the staffing plan by 1 detective position at the sheriff's office. Correct?
Yes.
Mr. Gedman? Did you get that?
So does that mean when we see the budget next week, it'll be an increase of 1 position?
That is correct. And how much is that approximately?
I'll know next week.
But I mean, that typically that position's what? As a full-time employee, about 120 grand a year?
Oh, less than that. I'm gonna guess 100,000 approximately with full benefits if it's family coverage.
Okay, thank you. Is there any
Would
more
this make
discussion?
the staffing plan compliant?
That would.
That would.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Nelson, my apologies.
That's all right. One question. Administrator said that administration and sheriff's department are in lockstep on this, but I'm hearing from the sheriff that you're not, so can you explain that difference? You're saying that it required, what he was talking about would require the loss of 1 road patrol, and you were saying you're in lockstep, so explain that.
We understand the problem exactly the same, that they are out of compliance in their staffing plan. We don't
we're
agree
in
on anything
agreement
else.
with.
But
I don't agree with his
Commission is
solution,
not in agreement.
but we do agree that we are not in compliance with the staffing plan. This will completely alleviate that, put us in compliance moving forward so that we can address the vacancies that we have not been able to fill.
One last question, Director Bott. Is that approximately the same dollar figure for a full-time correctional staff that is a vacancy?
They're not equivalent. The correctional position would be a lower cost FTE. I don't know what that cost differential is, but it would be not equivalent.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Any more comments, questions, concerns?
Can you repeat the motion?
The motion as I have it is to expand the sheriff's staffing plan by 1 detective.
Well, it's to set it at 11, technically. So that we're clear. We've already had 11 for 3 years, so.
But on paper, the staffing
Right.
plan has only had 10. Now it would have 11.
Go ahead, Commissioner Walter.
Sheriff, you mentioned that you all are, have been working on this kind of updated approach to the staffing situation in corrections. When do you think that would come back to us to discuss or take a look at or see what changes we'd need to make?
So one in particular that Mr. Leahy and I have been in discussion about, we have set a deadline amongst he and I to have that by July of 26, because of, there's a much bigger picture that it involves.
Okay.
So you will start seeing these in 26, if that makes sense.
Seeing what? Seeing this
Seeing
shift?
what we are going to, the changes that we're going to request, which I might be a little bit premature here, but could the board give us the blessing right now?
I think we're going to want to see that on paper to share before we give our blessing. However, we're all about the process. I'm sure we'd like to see cost savings no matter what.
Because that changes the staffing plan, right? So
That is
we
correct.
need to, we're going to need to approve that. I know. So, yeah, we're going to need to see that.
So, any more comments, questions, concerns? Motion on the floor. Mr. Gedman, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Flynn?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Spence?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Andrews?
No?
Morris?
Yes.
Seifert?
No. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sheriff. Moving right along. You might as well just stay there. Yes.
You have before you in your packet, we went out for RFPs out here in the jail, which is a mandated requirement. You have the results. The committee was formed to evaluate those. And, the committee recommended proceed with requesting a contract with a 1-year extension if all parties agree, for a total of up to
You have any questions for Captain Argyle? Anybody? Besides Commissioner Andrews? I guess it's Commissioner Andrews' turn.
Microphone on the podium.
Okay, thank you.
Right in the middle of a conversation.
Oh.
That's an RFP we should be looking at. Just saying.
Take a 1 minute break, or should we try to fix it, or? Okay.
So the costs,
Meanwhile, while we find the medical care costs, can you identify
have them come here?
the exit strategy, should we decide to exit the ACH ahead of the 3-year? Maybe you can also help us with some context. I think you alluded to the fact that there may be changes coming that you've been talking to the health director about, and how that would influence us at the same time signing a 3-year contract for medical care in the jail.
So I have to be kind of careful here because we are very comfortable with our current healthcare provider, and they are doing an excellent job. And I don't want to give the impression that if this board approves them, that there is an automatic termination date forthcoming, because that's not
It's a
what I'm
3-year
implying.
contract.
Pardon?
Right? It's a 3-year contract.
2-year
Up to.
contract with
Up
a
to.
1-year renewal.
So I think to answer your question is, as we approach the end of year 2, if we see a reason to not extend that for another year, we can do so. I don't know if I answered what you were asking. Did you find where it says 2 years with a 1-year extension?
I saw it.
I will just note that it looks like of the contracts that responded, this is the most expensive option. I'm looking at page 3 of 25, where we had ACH, 22nd Century, QCC, and ATC all responded, and this one comes in what appears to be the highest cost. And I appreciate that there's value to continuity, but I also appreciate that we're spending a lot, and I still haven't found the numbers on medical care in the jail. Is it worth the additional cost?
Says they received the highest overall score as well.
Mr. Chair, may I comment?
Please.
I apologize. Commissioner Nelson and I have to leave for an airport meeting, but I just want to point out that prior to our current healthcare provider in the jail, I was serving as chair, and there was a lot of complaints. It was really, what's it going to be next time? And this current provider has, I don't know where the costs land versus comparables, but they have been very valuable in that they're getting it done. People are getting the health care they need. It's humane. So they've kept costs down. So I just wanted to voice that qualitatively. I don't know the quantities, the dollars of, the RFPs and all that. And as we step out, I'll just point out the jail control systems definitely need upgrades, but I won't be here to go into it with you. So thank you.
Commissioner, if I can address your question.
Yeah.
So a committee was formed, and Mr. Leahy sat on that committee, so I would respectfully ask that maybe he help address how they scored that, so that you'll get you're right, they are not the cheapest by any means, but I do believe there was some discrepancies, and part of that is the service that we are currently being provided versus some of the RFPs didn't provide those same services that were requested. But if you,
I don't
anything
see
to
it in
add?
the packet. The months and costs and the medical costs do not appear to be in the packet, unless somebody can point me to them.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Can somebody address the fact that there's no data in this agenda item? It's just not here.
Well, we have the cost from the vendor, but we don't have the cost, like, how much does the hospital bill us every time we send?
That's what we asked for, right?
That's what you asked for.
I mean, just for the folks at home, so to speak, when ACH has a inmate that has a medical challenge, they take them to Munson Medical Center, and Munson Medical Center sends us a bill. And if it's like every other interaction with Munson Medical Center, you'll get 5 bills from 5 different departments, and the person who read the x-ray, and the person who took the x-ray, and the person, right? Like, that's just how it works. And 100% of those costs get charged back here to Grand Traverse County unless the person has private pay insurance, if the insurance information was collected. And having a sense of, you know, what ACH's track record is with medical bills, we are paying them to have, we paid extra to have a 24-hour nurse. Is that providing cost savings? We were quite confident that we were going to save a lot of money by having a nurse in-house. I would like to see the numbers that show what we're spending on. This is a fraction of the cost of providing medical care to inmates, and we don't have the full picture.
With all due respect, I believe the jail administrator does have what you requested last week, but we were asked to provide that today. So I guess, if you will, he can tell you some numbers.
That would be helpful.
So with the off-site visits,
You have to talk into the microphone.
It doesn't
Doesn't work.
Oh, that's right, sorry.
Oh,
It
does
does
now.
now.
Fantastic.
so with the medical provider that is in the jail, you know, the way you portrayed it, the way you said it is correct. They send them off-site because those services cannot be provided in the jail. The difference in the 24-hour service that we ask for is the corrections staff members are not assessing the inmate that is got some sort of medical condition going on. And then, so the nurse that is on duty all of those hours, 24/7, they are able to then talk with Dr. Provadas, and then it's decided, do they have to go out? Over the last year, since March, when we had the 24/7 care, the off-site visits has drastically gone down. If you look at a lot of the off-site visits this year that we had, it wasn't and you really got to dig into each one of those times that we send somebody out. You really got to look at what was it cost from. Some of the off-site visits this year were not necessarily emergencies. They were people that came to jail with pretty significant health issues, and while they're in custody, we're not able to treat them at the jail, and they go out, and that cost comes back to us. And I mean, if you look at the numbers over the last 3 years, even if you go back further,
We don't have those numbers, though. That's why we're a little beating our heads here, because we can't tell,
It's
you know.
not in front of us.
It's not in front of us. You may have it, but we don't.
Read the numbers.
So in 2025, year-to-date, above the contract price, we have spent $326,696 approximately on everything outside the contract. That would be mobile x-ray, that would be the ER visits, everything other than what is included in that contract, and the nursing, all of the staffing hours. In 2024, it was $303,499. In 2023, it was $282,772,000.
And are you, sorry, but 2024, is that costs incurred in 2024, or is that bills received in 2024?
Some of that because of the way medical billing happens. Some of the bills, from October, November, December, some of those services that are provided, we don't get those bills until January, March, or February, March. And so, some of them, it does carry over and we pay it.
I mean, it looks like 2025 year-to-date, which doesn't include some of the late year billings, is higher than 2024. I don't know what that reflects on a per, if your capacity, so to speak, has been higher in 2025, if you've been the same number of inmates, or if that's just reflects on I can't tell if we're saving money by having a nurse in the jail. Bottom line, right?
You're right, and I think it's been too short of a duration because we just adopted that this year. But I also want to add to this that the numbers you're looking at used to be encompassed in the contracts with your medical provider, and they identified it as a pool, or there was another term for it. And the numbers that I remember back when I was undersheriff were approximately $200,000. And what that meant was, you have the contract and it costs this much, and there's a pool that is up to a set amount, so that any off-site visits would come out of that pool. And if you went in excess of that, that was in addition to the contract. And Mr. Bach can help me if I go astray here. They have gone away from that. And they don't, when you go out for an RFP, the norm on the responses and proposals now is that pool is no longer really written into the contracts. It's just if it's an off-site visit, you're responsible. Which then brings up the next question, if they have viable insurance. Chairman, I had this question. I think there is a failure there on our part. If the person has private insurance, are we following through with that at Munson? Or is if we take someone up to Munson, is it just assumed, well, it's county, county's on the hook for it? We know that if they have Medicaid, for example, that ceases once you're incarcerated. If you have Social Security disability, that stops if you're incarcerated. So that would fall back on the county. But the trend in healthcare definitely is going up. There is no two ways about it. But hopefully, I think you need at least a year, realistically maybe even 2, to see if we can see that trend curve at all by having 24/7 nursing. The problem is, with inflation and everything, all your medical costs keep going up too, and if the medical costs go up more than the savings that you're experiencing, how are we going to see that? Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I think those are all great points, and we're all struggling with the crazy healthcare costs. You mentioned that we're not really sure if we're getting the private insurance to cover some of those costs. What can we do? I don't know if it's jail staff, I don't know whose job that would be, but what can we do this coming year to try to recoup some of those costs anyway that maybe, could add up, I don't know, but what can we do differently?
So ACH in the contract they provide, and we started using them in May with the medical repricing. They went to many of the community businesses here that we deal with, Munson, and worked on pricing agreements. But one of the things that they are working on, and some of the bills that are, the medical claims that are pending right now, is they are going back to Munson and these other providers and saying, this person potentially has insurance, and seeking to pay those bills that way. And so there still is quite a bit of, we got part of the batch back, so there's about 60,000 roughly that I know of right now that ACH is still working on for this current calendar year. But, it goes back to the inmate and the person that is incarcerated. Not many of them have insurance.
Right.
Not anything new.
So ACH is starting to do that, or they started to do that in May to try to see what other, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And they have successfully, they reduced the billing by a lot. And a good portion of that was identifying when some of these inmates did have insurance and letting the bill be recycled to address the insurance first.
What is the psychiatric option? I see the add-ons that ACH has 25 to 50,000. I think that's total to the contract to provide weekly or biweekly psychiatric options. Is that just, I mean, is it Reverend Busamra said that they need about 4 to 5 hours a week? How many hours of total care being provided in the, I think is what he suggested, and I just don't know what you get for $50,000. How, you know what I mean? How does that translate into?
So in the current contract, in the first 3 years, the ACH's model was that with the medical doctor, Dr. Privadas, she was able to triage as a person came in. She was, they call it that head-to-toe care, where she was able to triage if they were already on those type of medications and on that type of treatment, that she was able to assess and either restart or adjust those meds. And if she wasn't able to, through their telehealth system, she would basically consult with the specialists and those type people. And that seems to have been fairly successful. I think where you see them sending them out 2 months in reference mental health needs, it's because it's beyond what we can safely do in the jail. They need not only the medication potentially, but they need the therapy and the treatment that corrections custody can't necessarily provide. And so that is where this question of if you brought a psychiatrist back into the building, and that proposal is for 2 hours a week and or biweekly, every other week, or that third option. And I think this is the preference of our HSA and Dr. Privadas, is to use it in an on-call position. Dr. Privadas, in this conversation we had about this, 2 or 3 times this year she was dealing with an inmate that she wasn't able to assess the needs medication-wise and treatment-wise, and that is where she really needed that. And she explains that in a couple of those cases, to have an on-site psychiatrist, it would have been valuable.
I thought CMH provided psychiatric care in the jail.
Oh boy, here we
It could
go.
just be a yes or no question for those of us over here that
But
like
I
to
mean,
be
we're
honest.
for $50,000. I would rather pay CMH to send it.
I think that was still a point of contention with CMH.
Well, but I don't think we were offering to pay them $50,000 last year to spend 2 hours a week in the jail. If we, right, like if that's what we're paying ACH to provide 2 hours a week of care.
Don't we pay CMH for it anyway?
No, I don't think.
Yeah, we do. We
Well,
have
Yeah,
a
we do.
contract
pay
with them, but they
CMH
haven't been
$600,000,
delivering it. Is
but
that
that's for
correct?
everything.
I think that is accurate.
So if we have an urgent or emergent psychiatric need in the jail, we can contact CMH, and they will respond to the jail, assuming someone is available, which usually they have someone available, correct?
I'll make the motion that we approve the contract as presented.
Support.
Was that you, Commissioner Morris?
Yes, that was me.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Andrews with support from Commissioner Morris that we approve as presented. Any more discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Thank you. All right, last one. There. Jail control system upgrade. Your show, Sheriff.
Okay, yeah. So the request is to upgrade the computers in control, which are no longer supported. This is not the first request that's been made on this. Historically, what happens when we need something or something happens in the jail, I shouldn't say we need. When something happens in the jail, the answer is we need more cameras, The cameras all funnel into control. Control controls everything throughout the jail, from the locks to everything. It has Windows 7, I believe, as the software in it. It is no longer supported. It has been recommended that we upgrade the computers in control to the tune of 54, whatever is in front of you, and I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me, so that we can at least have serviceable computers that hopefully will minimize any down failures that we can, because it literally does control everything in the jail.
Did something happen recently?
No.
Is this an emergent challenge, or is this a challenge that's been?
It's an ongoing challenge, and when we were looking at our budget currently, we thought that this may be a very appropriate approach to take $57,000 and get this done. We have verified that we can get these units delivered and the installation going this calendar year yet.
I guess my confusion is why this wasn't included as a budget request through the budget process.
It was. Are you talking about for
It's in the
2026?
25 budget.
It's already in the budget?
I think if I understand. I
think someone's standing, lurking behind you. I didn't know if you had something to say.
Oh, go ahead.
The challenge here is Windows 10 is no longer supported, so we have no more updates. This application runs on Windows 10. We need to run on Windows 11. The application that's in question does not run on Windows 11, so that's why we need to upgrade everything. This has been an ongoing challenge. Support for Windows 10 ended in October.
I guess my question is, it says funds available in the budget. Does that mean that this project was included in the 2025 budget?
I think that statement means that the funds are available in the corrections budget because of the, just the fact that they haven't fully expended. They've got vacant FTEs and maybe some funds in a contract services line item. The funds are not in like the facilities fund or the capital improvement fund.
I guess my question is, was the project included in budget requests for 2025 or 2026?
I'm not sure this is going to give you a direct answer, but I'm going to try. So if we rewind the clock to 2024, when we were having budget discussions, there were improvements that were identified within the jail and approved.
There were.
And then never took place. And that decision was made not to do that, and I don't know by whom, but I can't swear to you that this was included in that without having that in front of me.
So I agree that there were costs that were for projects like cameras that were planned, but then we just looked at a CIP, and we looked at that 2 weeks ago or so, a capital improvement plan that was reallocating those dollars to other capital funding projects. It was our understanding that that was run by sheriffs, that we were not going to be doing that and reusing those dollars, and that allowed us to have a zero additional investment in capital improvement funding for 2026 as a way to free up dollars for the Project Alpha down payment, so to speak. So I guess my concern, I do have concern that last year we bought a bunch of tasers at the end of December, and then we got a bunch of medical bills in February. And so the concern I have is that when we use up dollars that are in the budget, doesn't mean those dollars carry through into the following year. And if it's a project that can wait, I feel like we shouldn't be saying there's funds in the budget until we know that you just mentioned that there may be October, November, December billings that we haven't seen yet.
Well, I mean, this is a huge operational risk, and I'm kind of upset it wasn't taken care of earlier. I don't know if IT manages the jail's IT. Like, I don't understand how this, like, the jail is on an outdated, unsecure, unsupported system. That seems kind of scary to me. And I guess I'd want to know, and I'm in support of this because of that, but I want to know, like, does IT support upgrading everybody in the county, or is this ad hoc? Like, I'm trying to understand why we got to this point.
Cliff Dupuy, IT. No, it's a great question. We had identified a listing probably of about 70 to 80 machines that are running Windows 10. We are currently, we maybe have 5 to 10 left in the county. We've been upgrading all of those. The challenge we're faced with this particular implementation is the hardware does not support Windows 11. It doesn't have enough memory, doesn't have enough hard drive space or things like that. So the ones that we're still working on upgrading through the end of the year, it's not that we haven't forgotten them, it's just that we have to replace the hardware, which we have ordering, you know, which we're in the midst of doing multiple installs right now, but it's not a matter of us being neglectful, it's just a matter of the hardware won't support Windows 11.
But isn't this like an IT expense? I'm confused on how these things work or don't work. Can you just share like a little breakdown of how we get to this? And
some of the jail products that they have are very unique and they're vendor supported. When it comes to buying, supplying the hardware to support their needs, that's something that we can do. But then we may go in and provide the hardware, the components themselves, and then there'll be an outside vendor that comes in that has much more experience in dealing with jail programs, and we will support them on getting that up and running. So that's how, it's kind of a blend. Kind of like what we do with 911. 911. We have systems in there that we provide the hardware for, but then we have another vendor that comes in and actually installs the software, or maintains the software. It's vendor supported.
Any more questions? I want to make the motion and we approve this as presented.
I'll support that.
All right. Motion by Seifert, support by Spence. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your patience today. I was hoping we'd be done before now. Second public comment. Going once, going twice. Third time's a charm. We're adjourned.
That was a longer meeting than I expected.
We did get notification that we